And welcome back to Sullivan's Backstage Pass. I'm here with Justin. Justin, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
When you sent me your new album
Mhm.
as a preview, I was blown away.
Really?
Yeah, and there's three reasons why. One, it's not a consistent thing throughout the song. There's so many musical twists. There's so many musical turns that complement each other. And it's not just your basic traditional like flow of music. Like, it's like has a little bit of influences all around.
Yeah.
And so take me from the beginning. Like, how did you get started in music in the first place?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it was not my choice by any means. My mom put me in, before piano lessons, I did like preschool music lessons at a Harmony Road Music Center, which is still around. I believe they're in Gladstone now, but they were in Clackamas when I was going there. So it was like preschool. Um, we would just do like kind of ear training exercises, sing along, match pitches with what the teacher was playing. Started with that. Then once I got into school, I started on group piano lessons. Did that for a few years. Then started taking private lessons. So I took about 7 years of piano lessons. And I did school band, started on trombone for a little bit. But once I got into middle school, I became a drummer. And that was my big passion. My mom would often comment that like she'd always have to get on my case to practice piano. Never was a problem for me to practice drums. I would always just do it on my own. So I took some drum lessons when I was like 12, and then did percussion in middle school, high school, a little bit in college. Um, and then around that time, I started composing. I wrote my first song when I was 13, and I would used to write like 20 compositions, songs like a year for a long time. So I taught myself how to write music. So I had a bit, obviously my piano lessons helped build that foundation. Then like learned some things from band, but basically it was, I taught myself how to write music from, uh, the Beatles actually.
Fascinating.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this book. It's a thick white book. It's the Beatles complete scores. And, I think it was in the early 80s. These professors from I think a Japanese university sat down and transcribed every single Beatles song into sheet music, and they published a book. And I saw this book at Barnes and Noble, so I was like, "Oh, cool!" So I bought it like in middle school, and then I would like I'd score study it. It's like, oh, this is how like bass guitar is played and written. This is how guitars are played. So I learned how to write for instruments I didn't play. And then, yeah, I figured out songwriting composition from that.
So in terms of like putting songs together in composition, uh, at what point did you start to realize that you were getting the fundamentals down and creating some pretty cool music?
Pretty quickly. I'm not trying to say that to be conceited or anything, but I did write like 4 or 5 test songs just to figure things out. And then from there, I was like, okay, I'm going to write serious material now. Um, some of those early songs I wrote when I was like 14 are not bad, but boring. But some of it's like to this day, to my modern ears, still like, oh, this is actually legitimately good. I might tweak a few things here and there, but otherwise, like I kind of knew what I was doing way back then. Um, so I wasn't a great I was never a great lyricist, and I'm definitely going to talk about that later probably. But as far as writing music goes, like, yeah, I kind of figured it out kind of quick.
At the same time, though, like I really believe that some people just have music in them,
Mm-hmm.
and if you have the music in you, it's safe to say that some people are able to produce really good things earlier on, because if you can understand music and the music is inside of you,
Mhm.
it's easier for that to go external towards the outside, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah, and I know they've done studies on, like, babies in the womb, fetuses listening to music, and there's something there for sure. I come from a very musical family. So my granddad, my maternal granddad, was a big band leader in the 40s and 50s here in Portland. And they would gig all around town and everything. And my grandma was a singer and piano player. She was actually won a Shirley Temple lookalike contest. Um, and if I remember correctly, my mom said that like she even went down, and she was like just like a kid, like a small child, like in the 30s, to go down to Hollywood to like audition for some things. Nothing panned out from that, of course, but there's that background. And then my mom, she wasn't much of a performer per se, but uh she learned basic piano from my grandma, and then she also took classical guitar lessons in her 20s, and then in her 40s she took bass lessons.
What's that?
Yeah, like I remember as a kid, like in grade school, my mom would turn on the bass amp and it would like shake the whole house. You know, when you're 7, it's like, oh, what's going on? um and then like my uncle, my mom's brother, he's also a musician and he's played in a lot of bands over the years too. And then on my dad's side, my dad wasn't much of a musician, but my grandfather, he played a lot of music back in the day and did like a barbershop quartet in the when in his 60s and 70s. So yeah, I think all of that being around me probably contributed to where I came from.
And what was the first band that you got into?
Ooh, okay, so that is an interesting question because I remember I was a snooty, like, 4th and 5th grader. I was like, "I only listen to classical music." Oh my god, I was always obnoxious, kids, like, it's never changed. Um, but yeah, I would say once I hit, like, middle school age, it was, like, my parents' music is what spoke to me initially. So the Beatles.
Yeah.
Uh, they were my parents' favorite band. They have, like, all their albums. We had them on cassette. We listened to a lot of them growing up. And then it just clicked on me as a teenager, and I just kind of fell in love with them at that point. So yeah, I kind of started. I know it's like cliche to say the Beatles because they're, literally the most famous band of all time, but it really was.
And I don't think that's cliche at all, right? Because it doesn't like sometimes it's a surprise what
Hmm.
inspires us musically,
Yeah,
and sometimes like for my own origin story, right? My first album I ever bought was Metallica Black,
that's a great
and
album.
I hated it at first.
Really?
Yeah, I absolutely hated it
Hmm.
until the fifth time I listened to it, and it was the fifth
Interesting.
time I listened to it. We're like, oh, this music is supposed to make you convey anger. This
Yeah.
music is supposed to pull on these emotions. So I was trying to figure it out from the love and peace of my dad's
Mm,
music,
right,
and it didn't make sense. And as soon as it made sense to me, I was a metalhead till I died.
right.
So if you don't leave yourself open to whatever, you never know what that first musical sort of bug gets you.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Black Album too, because that's kind of my introduction to heavy music as well. Like, I think my brother bought it, and then like I stole it from him, so I have it. But yeah, that was my introduction to kind of more modern metal, and it took me a while. Like, oh, this is really harsh, but like there's something there that kind of drew me, and so I kept listening to it. It's like you, and yeah. I know like the Black Album gets, shit on all the time by like, metalheads, but like I think it's a great album. It sounds good. It's well made. The songs are great. So yeah.
It's well produced, and like all of the notes and sequences, they really did a really intentional job on that album, and it will always be one of my.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because like it's one of those things where like I really firmly believe to my core there's no such thing as bad music. It's just music that you like or you don't like.
Yeah, that goes with my general philosophy in life, is that not everything has to be made for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so many there's so much opportunity for you out there, regardless of the genre, that even if that doesn't count your tea, don't stop looking. Look for that music that calls to you, because you never know. Like, I didn't stumble across the blues until a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I had no idea. Well, I can hear it now, but just how much influence the blues has over modern rock.
Absolutely.
Over modern metal even. And it's like the roots that get you to there is important, I think, as well.
Right, absolutely.
So in terms of like your creative process, right? Because like I'm fascinated by some of the choices that you made on this new album. How did you like? So one of the questions that I ask is because I do believe that the muse is a living, breathing thing.
Sure.
And you never know when she's going to visit you. So when the muse visits you, how do you capture that?
Oh man. Well, that's kind of a question I've been asking myself a lot for years now. So, I don't know if you picked up on this or I told you or anything like this, but I wrote this album, this musical 15 years ago. I wrote it in 2011. So I have to like remind myself, wait, what headspace was I in at that time? Yeah. So I was telling you earlier that like I'd write like 10, 20 compositions a year. Like every year I was just really prolific until I wrote this. And I wrote 21 songs in like 4 months because there's 21 songs in it. And after that, my songwriting output just evaporated. Now I only write like 2 songs a year now. It was everything up until then. Like this used everything I had in me apparently to make this. And then now it's like the muse isn't there anymore. And I kind of wonder if like, have I said everything I've wanted to say? I don't know. I hope not.
I hope not too. Yeah, I hope not too. So when you're putting together an album like this, do you start like, does the melody come to you first, or does the lyrics?
Okay, well, I mean, let's talk about that. So like prior to this, I would write whole songs. So I'd write lyrics and music. I think very analytically and scientifically. I am pretty left-brained for a musician, so I would deliberately make choices. Like, you know what? I'm going to write a chord progression first, and then I'm going to write a melody or melody and chord progression, and then I'm going to fit lyrics to that. Or I was like, I'm going to write lyrics and then figure out the song from there. So I do both. Now this, in Odin's name, I have a co-writer, and he wrote the lyrics. So basically he just gave me the lyrics and the story, and then I would just fit the music to what's going on. But yeah, like melody, I do think this is going to be kind of a general music nerdy rant, as I feel like melody is not as appreciated in a lot of music circles these days. Like you go onto YouTube and you go to like these music theory channels, and everybody's talking about like harmony and chord progressions and reharmonizing everything, and the melody is kind of what it's really all about. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you could take any sort of jazz standard and you can hum it. And I know like jazz, for example, might be a little abstract for some people, but there's still a melody there that you can hum. And like, how many classical orchestral Baroque pieces that you can hum the melody to. Melody really is the most important thing, and sometimes I've lost track. That's happened to me before. But yeah, the melody, especially for um something like musical theater, which is what this is kind of intended for. It's like you need to have a strong melody that people will remember and
Yeah.
sing along to.
I think of it like cake. I know it's a strange analogy,
Mhm.
but yeah, if you don't have a melody, it's like a gluten-free cake.
Yeah.
It's good. It's not the same,
Right.
right,
Mhm.
as that really high-dose sugar flour-filled cake.
Right.
And so I kind of exactly understand what you mean,
Mhm.
because it's also like my theory for like auto-tune, right?
Mm.
Same kind of thing, where like I get it. Sometimes you need that auto-tune with current artists. However, I'm always going to prefer bands where it's just raw, authentic voices that I can hear, because the mistake in the singing and the mistake in the voices is what makes some songs just so beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about blues earlier. I mean, like a lot of blues music is very, very raw, and um like other genres are less raw than others, so it can vary. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like the having some humanity, at least some humanity to the music really improves
And not
it.
overproduced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like one of the things that I appreciate about your band in particular
Mm-hmm.
is that you have the different styles of voices. You have the one male voice and then the female voice,
Mm-hmm.
and they complement each other. Did you have the two different voices in mind when you created the music?
Uh yeah. So like when Alex, my co-writer, he wrote up the storyline and all the characters, and I had to like look, kind of like read the lyrics. It's like, okay, what type of character is this? What would they sound like? And then so like in my head, I like would fit their like vocal range. It's like, do they have like a high pretty voice? Do they have like a mid range like power rock vocal? Do they have like a deep low aggressive voice? I kind of had to, for every character, I kind of had to figure that out right away before I even started writing anything. And then I had to find the right singers
Yeah.
to who would fit what I had in my head. So
What was that process like?
oh, that was an awful process. That's why it took me 15 years to release this. Because I wrote it in 2011, but I didn't start recording it for a couple of years. And like the pace I was going, this album was supposed to come out in 2015. But like I just couldn't find the singers I was looking for. And I would make, well, back in 2015 Craigslist was still kind of relevant, so I'd do posts on Craigslist looking for singers, and I get all these responses, and I would say this is exactly what I'm looking for. These are the type of singers I am looking for. Like, here's a whole list of singers. And I would get people responding to me with voices that sound absolutely nothing like what I was looking for. And they weren't, or not even the same like range. Like, okay, I want like a high tenor singer, and here was like a folksy deep voice singer auditioning for the part. And I was like, no, no. I mean, don't you know what you sound like? I mean, what you sound good. It's just not what I'm looking for. So like, I just gave up for quite a few years. It's like, this is mind numbing. And then finally, like now that like I'm more established and I know like way more musicians now than I did 10 years ago, I was able to finally finish it because I just knew enough people and had enough networking. But when you don't have that networking, it is very hard.
Yeah. Especially when you want to stay true to your vision, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important piece, so that people don't understand. Like, because I hear this all the time with bands like Tool, when there's like, when's the next album coming out? Like it has to be ready when it's ready.
It's probably about 20 years for the next Tool album.
Yeah, right. Let's hope it's anyway. But yeah, what I'm trying to say though is that like for people who are listening to your artists and you have people and you're like
Mhm.
wondering why some artists can't produce an album as quickly,
Mhm.
it's not because it's not their content wise. It's they want to ensure that they get it right so that it's the most enjoyable experience for the listener, because this isn't about you.
Mhm.
This is about the people who listen to your music.
Mhm.
And it's important to you as an artist that what you put out there is a reflection of what you want your audience to enjoy. And I think that's a huge component. Was that something that we always sort of had in the back of your mind?
I'm sorry, what was your question again?
So like if you're thinking about from the audience
Yeah.
perspective, right?
Uh-huh.
What when you're going into putting these songs, was it
Yes.
a reflection of like what you wanted the audience to hear?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because especially for this project, I was definitely thinking markability. Um so um yeah, I didn't want to like completely sell out. Like there are, definitely some uh uh content in this musical that, there's like incest and stuff going on. So obviously there's like some edgy things, but I was always thinking about like how can I appeal to the general public, or at least the people who enjoy like musical theater, while being authentic to the type of music I like and the type of music I want to write. So there's definitely a balance there. But yes, there's definitely consideration to who my audience is and like what they might like.
And talk to me to the audience a little bit about the journey involved, right?
Hmm.
Because I think that one of the things I appreciate about your album is that you're going on a journey from start to finish.
Hmm.
And we get into these modes nowadays where everything's about singles and everything's about like individual releases.
Yeah.
And so what prompted you to go to the decision to put out an entire album? Because I'm all for it. I love it.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people understand that that's something that's intentional these days, and fighting that temptation just to release a single.
Right. Yes. We've come full circle in regards to that, because in the 60s, early 60s, is all about the single, and we're back at the single again. It's funny how that works. Well, kind of the snarky answer to the question is that the world was a different place in 2011 when I wrote it. and, um, even then things were changing, like, CDs, even in 2011, CDs were passe. But, things were, I don't know if Spotify was around that long ago. I didn't hear about Spotify until like 2013, but, things were starting to change. We're already at MP3s at that point. But I wanted deliberately to make something long form. I want to create a full story um, that is told over multiple songs, and because okay, I don't know if I didn't mention this, but I'm also a writer, and I like writing books, long form entertainment. So like long form has always been um, a focus of mine. I'm a progressive rock fan, so I like some of the longer suites from different prog rock bands. So I know it's not for everybody. um but uh yeah, but like on that note, when I was first talking to Alex, my co-writer, I told him I want there to be a song in this album that can be a single. Because yes, it is a continuous story, but like at the same time, I want a song that is like 3-4 minutes long, one singer, that you don't need like outside context to know what's going on, and something that I can make a music video for, and we wrote that. So like, I think I sent you the music video.
Yeah.
So that song was written entirely for marketing reasons. Like, okay, this is something that like people can just hear out of context, and they don't have to know the story of the songs that come before or after. And it'll at least kind of make sense. So that was the point of that. That was kind of a marketing decision on my part to do something like that.
But it's smart because it kind of like lets you do both things, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes you almost need that single to draw people in so they can appreciate the whole experience.
Yeah, and I released, I think it was last May when it came out, because I was done with it. I was done. I shot the video. I edited it. It was ready to go, and I was just going to wait until the album was done recording. So I was like, okay, I'll drop the video, I'll drop the single, and then I'll spend a couple months mixing the album, and then it'll be like a 3-month gap. I figured that was probably pretty good. But no, it took a lot longer to mix it. 100 minutes of music. It's a long time to mix, especially when you have a ton of singers and everything. So it just took a lot longer to make, and then getting it mastered and everything, and then scheduling like the release party for it. So it's coming out. I mean, I don't know when this will drop online, but 2 days from now is when it will release. So
it'll be about a week and a half after.
Right. Okay, there we go. So a week and a half ago, kids, is when this is coming out. But anyways, what I'm saying is that I intended to be like a 3-month gap, but it's more like a 9-month gap.
And I get that.
Yeah.
It goes back to like, if it's ready, it's ready.
Right. Yeah. I didn't want to rush. I was like, I was thinking it was going to be quick to mix it, because I've been into audio engineering. I went to school for it. So I've been doing it for almost 20 years at this point. But I was like, no, it's not ready. I need to spend more time on this. So I'm glad I did, for sure.
Yeah. And then in terms of like the performance piece, right?
Mhm.
Because you're also in a few other bands, right? Or did you kind of let that go in order to focus on this?
Yeah. So these days I view myself as more of a freelance musician. My main gig is playing in musical theater pits. So
So let's pause right there for a second.
yes.
Right? Because a lot of people don't know what a musical theater pit is.
Right.
That is awesome. And I want you to explain what that is, because people need to know. This is cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm sure, everybody knows what musicals are, right? Surprisingly, when I tell people this, a lot of people are shocked that there's not a band. They think it's like canned music playing the background. But no, for most musical theater shows you go to, there is a live band, and played by musicians, like hired professionals. And that is what past like 5 years or so, that's been my main gig, is playing a bunch of musicals. Like a couple of years ago, Portland Center Stage put on Hair. I don't know if you remember that. I was the drummer for that.
How cool is that?
Yeah. And then like I'll do gigs for Broadway Rose out in Tigard, and a lot of like school musicals. Yeah, like high schools will hire outside adult musicians instead of, sometimes they do kids if they have like good students there. But like, yeah, in 2 months, in April, because again, I don't know when this is coming out, but in April, I'm going to be playing for University of Portland's musical. They're doing Lightning Thief. So yeah, I do like 5 musicals a year, 4 or 5 musicals a year, and on drums. And yeah, sometimes we're in front of the stage, sometimes we're behind the stage, sometimes we're on stage. Sometimes you can see me, sometimes you can't. But yeah, we play the music for the people singing and dancing on stage. So that is, and it's called a pit because traditionally speaking, the pit is in front of the stage. It's like a recessed floor, and that's where like an opera, the orchestra would be down there. So that's why it's called a pit.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So when you're playing these kind of venues, right? It's one of those things where I admire, because you're almost like the unsung hero of the performance. And one of the things I'm curious about is how do you maintain that level of professionalism, right? Because it's important, like if you're going to be doing these kind of gigs, not to have that ego and not to have
Yes.
this sort of inflated sense of self, because you really are the
Mm-hmm.
supporting cast
Mm-hmm.
and you have to shine.
I ask that myself that all the time. Yeah, no, it is a challenge because, like, straight up, I'll be the first to admit I do have a little bit of an ego. But when I do these musical theater gigs, I do tell myself, "You're not the star. You're not on. Well, sometimes you're on stage, but you're not the focus." I often have to play a lot quieter than if I'm doing like a loud rock show, at Alberta Abbey or something like that. I don't know. So like I have to like control my level, my volume, and then you have to pay attention to the music director. Usually, very rarely, there's like a standalone conductor. So usually the guy playing the piano or woman playing a piano is the music director, and they'll like nod. So you have to like watch them and watch them for their nods, and that's when you go on to the next section. So there's a lot of paying attention, and then you have music, like sheet music that you follow as well. So you have to look at a bunch of things. But yeah, I kind of have to force myself to keep my ego in check, and that's kind of why, like, whenever I do a non-musical show, um, I really take it in because that's my time to be on stage, and I that's my outlet is for those non-musical shows, and then that way, as long as I have those, I don't have a problem doing the support role for being in the pit.
Yeah, because it's like almost having the best of both worlds, right? You have this paid gig that you can rely on.
Right.
And then you have opportunities to get on stage and other opportunities to just let it all out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so like in terms of like drumming in particular, right? At what point did you realize that you were good enough to be on stage?
I can kind of almost exactly tell you exactly when that happened. It was going into my senior year of high school. So I'm like 17, almost 18. So I've been playing drums at this point about 5 or 6 years. And I don't know, maybe it's because I was like, "Oh, I'm a senior. I'm the top dog in the school. Like, I've been waiting since kindergarten to be like, the top of everything because apparently, high school's the whole world. There's nothing past that." But anyways, but I felt that way, and I think it gave me this sense of confidence, and I never felt nervous again performing drums. Other instruments maybe, but like from that point onward, it's like, I'm not bad. I'm not a bad musician. I'm not a bad drummer. Like, I'm confident in what I can do. I know what I can't do, so I make sure not to do that. So, but I know what I don't know, so I stick with what I do know, and I have enough confidence to where, like, yeah, I can. Yeah, so it kind of hit me at, I guess, a young age, if you think in the grand scheme of things. I did my first festival gig a couple of years ago at the Shady Pines Festival in
How cool was that?
in Sandy, and I'd never done a big outdoor gig before, and no nerves. I just went up there and did the show.
What is it about the live performance that you enjoy the most?
Yeah, ooh, because I definitely enjoy performing. Because I did a bit of acting when I was younger, and like I enjoyed that, and I think I just enjoy. Oh man, yeah, it's the audience. The audience like feeds me, which is a weird thing for an introvert to say because I consider myself an introvert, and but I feel like on stage I become an extrovert.
Yeah.
And I feed off of the crowd. Like, I 10 years ago, I was doing a bunch of, I was playing in indie bands, playing to empty bars. And I hated those gigs because I felt off. It's like there was not an audience, so I was just unhappy, and it's like I didn't enjoy playing, which is weird to say because in rehearsal I enjoy playing. When I practice, when I like woodshed and practice technique, I enjoy that. But if I'm playing out and there's like no audience, like I kind of don't like it. It's an interesting phenomenon. I don't have an explanation as to why, but if there's an audience, then it's like, yeah, this feels good.
I think I might have an answer to that.
Really?
Yeah. So I think of music and performance as a symbiotic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that symbiotic relationship between the audience and the band,
Mm-hmm.
it feels off.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have the other side or that audience energy, it's going to feel weird because it's like you're missing that energy filling your cup back while you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said this in my last interview too, but I really do think of music as a miracle on stage.
Mm.
You get all of those people on the same wavelength, playing the same music. The crowd is vibing. Everybody is on this same plane,
Right.
Metaphysically in a way that I can't explain the why,
Mm-hmm.
but you can feel it. It's palpable. And so if that second half of the musical experience is not there,
Mm-hmm.
it just feels weird.
Yeah, and I was just kind of thinking when you were talking about that, like when I do a musical gig, even though obviously the attention's not paid to me or the pit in general, you still get the audience reactions and you're part of that. And so like, yeah, like going from playing to empty bars 10 years ago to consistently filling up a theater, 200, 300 people every night, and hearing their laughter, their applause, their cheers. Like I said, even though they're probably focusing more on the actors on stage, I still feel part of that. And I still draw on that from that energy.
And it's undeniable the importance the percussion part is playing
Of
for
course.
that performance, right?
Yeah.
Because like even like with a musical band,
Mm-hmm.
the drummer and the bass have to keep everybody on time.
Yes.
The drummer and the bass have to do so many things that people don't notice you all are doing to make sure that it's an amazing performance.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of damn work.
It does.
Yeah, a lot of practice.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm glad you say drum and bass because, dear God, I need a bass player in the band. Like 10 years ago, I was in this band, and for a long time, for like 2 or 3 years, we did not have a bass player. It was just piano, guitar, drums, and I didn't quite enjoy it that much because like I need that bass player to lock in with. Eventually we finally got a bass player and like it instantly became better. Then we lost a guitarist, but like I preferred having the bassist over the guitarist.
Right.
Because I'm so glad you brought that up because that really is important.
And so, because one of the things that I love watching bands, so I watch live performances in a different way. I'm there to listen to the music, but I also like to watch how bands communicate with each other.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's one of those things that's so important, yet you don't have the space to physically communicate or audibly communicate with each other. So how did you pick up those skills as a drummer to be able to communicate when things need to adjust?
I would say I think school band helped out a lot with that because my band director, my first high school band director, I don't know, it's just like this, you learn the cues that he would give to everybody, and we would pick on like, oh, if he does this, even he's not verbally saying it, but we kind of learned how to interpret his finger commands. I don't know what the term is for that. Yeah. So I think that helped quite a bit. And then like jazz band too, because like jazz band, typically speaking, you'll have a big band you'll have like the band leader, the conductor, but they don't usually conduct. They just stand there and then, point at like your turn to solo and stuff like that. So you just kind of like learn by intuition the commands that they give in the like that big band jazz context. So yeah, I think it was like school band kind of helped me with that. And then the more you like learn somebody, like you learn how to read eyes. And then of course there's like, universal commands to like this is like one more time through the progression, or last time, let's move on to the next section. Like pretty much like any like professional musician or jazz musician kind of knows what those are. And I learned them like in college. So yeah, a proper traditional music education is kind of how I learned that. I'm not saying you need that, but that really helped me.
Right, but at the same time, like, I want to acknowledge that that's something that's you learn through practice and repetition.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I really stress in this podcast is to musicians that are up and coming or just starting out, how important it is to not only just practice all the time, but also have that conversation with your band about how you want to communicate.
Yeah.
How important is it to get along with your band?
Very important. And if I could go on like a little bit of a soapbox here,
Please, by all means.
because you brought practice, and there is a difference between practice and rehearsal. And a lot of musicians, especially kind of more amateur, younger musicians, treat them like they're the same thing, and they're not. My philosophy is that you practice on your own. You learn the songs on your own, and then you show up to rehearsal ready to like gel everything together. And I'm always very deliberate in my verbiage when I talk to people. I never say band practice. I always say band rehearsal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always make sure to verbalize the difference between practice and rehearsal. And I think as long as you do that, because that allows you to spend more time in rehearsal to do like what you're talking about, learn how to communicate. Hey, this is kind of how we go about navigating the music as we're playing on stage, and you spend more time learning how to perform when you do it that way.
And then also from a volume standpoint, right? Because you sort of hinted on a little earlier, and I'm always fascinated by this because I don't think people appreciate how difficult it is as a drummer to play at a reduced volume. Is that something you sort of picked up? Like, how hard was that to accomplish? Because, like, I see drummers who have that ability, and it is amazing.
Yeah.
Because it helps so much in terms of dynamics and all of this other stuff. Was that something that you picked up through the musical thing, or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely when I started doing musicals, I really learned that, even if I'm doing like a rock musical, I still have to play like quieter than I do in a bar. But like, it came from before then, even like I would play, we would play like a smaller venue, like, I don't know, like Firkin Tavern, for example. I mean, it's been years since I played there. And like, I learned that like, okay, I got to like play quieter for this space. In fact, I have a drum set that's small drums specifically for like musicals and small bar gigs because they're quieter. Like, I have the right tools for the right venue. But even like going back to school, I had a big problem controlling my dynamics in marching band. Like, I kept playing too loud, and it took a long time before it finally clicked. Like, oh, this is what it feels like to play quietly. Because I think the problem with a lot of drummers is that they don't know what it feels like to play quietly. What they think is quiet isn't actually quiet. And I think once you figure out, oh, this is the physical sensation of playing quietly, it becomes a lot easier. But yeah, like, I was at this show a week ago. I don't remember the name of the place. It's on a Grand. It's like upstairs. It's like right by the Morrison Bridge. I forgot the name of it. It's gone through different names over the past few years, but I saw my friend's band there, and the opening band, the drummer was like playing with like gorilla arms and everything, and I was just like staring at the guys, like thinking in my head, you don't need to play that loud. It's fine. And then of course the sound person has to like turn everything up to match the drums, and then your ears bleed, and it's like you don't have to play that loud. So yeah, I'm kind of big on knowing it's cool to like really dig into the drums and play it, but it has to be like the right venue
and the right space.
In the right space, yeah.
And what I mean by space is like if you have space in the acoustic piece,
Mhm.
because you don't want to drown out your band if you're too loud.
Right. Yeah.
But also you want to have that freedom to just go nuts sometimes.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I don't think other people appreciate too in terms of drums
Mhm.
is how intentional you are with your solos. Because a lot of people have this misconception or this misperception that if you're doing a drum solo, that you're just pulling it out of your butt. But no, there's a lot of intention around that.
Yeah.
Why is it important for people to understand? Or maybe it's not. I'm curious. Like, how do you go about like practicing the drum solo piece?
Ooh, yeah. And I do love playing drum solos. It's like my indulgent thing for sure. I think you have to kind of treat a drum solo like any other instrument solo. Because I've had conversations with the guitarist on this album. Because he was a jazz guy, and we would talk about this, and when we were kind of brainstorming what he should play for the different solos he had on here, he was like, yeah, like, okay, with this chord progression, all I'm doing is playing a bunch of licks strung together. But if we do it like this, I could play a more like musically connected thing where it's not just a bunch of licks squished together. It's like I'm creating something like more organic, and like that kind of stuck in my head. So when I play a drum solo, it's not like, oh, I'm going to do this lick. Oh, I'm going to do this lick. Now I'm doing this lick. It's going to be like, what is the story I'm telling here? And what can I do to tell that story? And, I know drums are not like a pitched instrument, but I know with like jazz drum solos, when I took like jazz lessons in college, I was told like, you want to think melodically. Again, you're not playing a pitched instrument, but like think of melodies that you can create with your drums, and orchestrate your solo around that. And that was like kind of an eye-opening experience for me too. So like, yeah, what's the story I'm telling? What sort of melody, if you will, am I hearing in my head? This is what I'm going to do to play it.
And when you're on stage and you're sort of watching the audience, what are some of the things that you like to see from the audience where that lets you know that at least you're doing something to keep them all engaged?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Of course, it also depends if you can see them.
Right?
Because like even sometimes, like bright lights on stage, it's like it can be hard to make out what people's faces are telling you. Um oh yeah, that's not really something I thought about. I think more of like an audible reaction rather than a visual reaction. But I like seeing, you could tell, even if somebody's like stone faced, there's a difference between they're bored or they're paying attention. Like you can tell. And so as long as I can tell that they're engaged, that's all I need. They don't need to be like hootering and hollering. It's like, yeah, okay, they're engaged. I'm good with this.
And I really appreciate you say that, because the perspective I usually have is because I'm really dialed into the disability community.
Yeah.
As somebody with a disability myself, I would love to go out and dance to your songs. My body does not allow it.
Sure. Yeah.
However, I am thoroughly enjoying the music. And so I want people to know, if you're going to a show and you can't dance, that's okay. But
Yes.
try and do something else to acknowledge to the band that you're having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
And on that same note, I'm going to say the same thing I say on every podcast, because this is still a myth I hear today.
Mm-hmm.
People are so afraid to go up to musicians after a performance and
Mhm.
let them know how good they were. As a musician, why is it important for people to come up to you and tell you that they enjoyed your music?
Oh my God. It's the greatest feeling in the world. Especially if, oh man, like if you know they're a musician, I mean, even if they're not a musician, it's still a great feeling. But getting that like feedback, I think just is like, I don't know, confirmation's not the word I'm thinking of, but it like really lets you know that like, hey, like that I did okay. I did okay. Probably my one of my single greatest memories of my life was all the way back in 8th grade, and I was playing in the middle school jazz band at the high school, and my idol was like the head first chair drummer of at the high school, and like I like idol worship this guy, and after a performance he patted me on the back and said good job. And yeah, that was 20 almost 25 years ago, and that lives in my head rent free every day, because that meant the world to me. And even if it's like a layman coming up, I used to play in a Lady Gaga tribute band.
That's awesome.
I led it, actually. I did all the arrangements, and the singer had these like friends that came to every show, and they always complimented me after every show, and I just loved hearing from them. I don't think they were musicians, but just like those people, like every show they would come up to me. They were her friend, they're the singer's friend, but they come up to me and just said how amazing everything was, and like that was like, I loved that. So why that is, I don't know. It's just great, and it just makes me want to keep going. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a validation of all of the work
Yeah.
that you've put up until that moment,
Mhm.
and we are our own worst critics. So even though we are doing, like, I hear all the time people say how amazing of an interviewer I am. You're doing a really good job here. And I'm like,
Mhm.
great, but I'm still my own worst critic. And so sometimes when you don't hear that, you tend to be really hard on yourself. And
Mhm.
so when somebody speaks that to existence and it's real, it validates all of the work that put up until that moment, because you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of practice and rehearsal,
Mhm.
doing this and doing that just to get show ready.
Yeah.
And just to have that one moment of, that was fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay,
Mhm.
I can still do this.
No, you're absolutely right.
And another thing I'm curious about too, and I'm always curious from a drummer's perspective,
Mhm.
if you're going to a venue,
Yes.
what would something that you would love to see at a venue that makes it easier for you to perform as a drummer?
House drums.
Tell me more.
Yeah. So, I'd always bring my own drums to gigs all the time. Even like, this band I was in like 10, 12 years ago, we'd play the Firkin Tavern all the time. And it's a small space, and like every band brought their own drums. And that was just the way things were done. And then once I started playing musical theater, it was like, okay, I set up my drums once, and they just stay there for 3 weeks or 4 weeks or however long the show is. And then when it's done, I pack them up and go home. It's like, wow, this is super awesome. I just have to transport the drums once, set them up and tear them down once, and I get 20 shows out of that. And it made me lazy. So now anytime I do I play with a band, or do a show, I always ask, "Hey, is anybody else bringing drums? Is anybody else bringing drums? Because I will totally play them. I'll bring cymbals. Don't worry. I'll bring my own cymbals. But if I could play on other people's drums, I am so happy with that. And there are some venues that have house drums, and it's great. That just makes my life wonderful.
Big and along those same lines too. So if you're talking about sorry, words are hard sometimes.
That's cool.
When you're playing, something I'm always curious about, and I've never had the opportunity to ask a drummer this.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you break a stick? How do you keep going if you only have one arm?
So I always have a stick bag attached to one of my cymbal stands that has sticks on it. So instantly break, drop the stick, grab it, pick it up. Yeah, and I have a skill set where I can do a lot of beats and grooves one-handed if I have to for a couple seconds. So I'll just I might have to move my hand back and forth between the right and the snare or whatever, but it's I just need 1.5 seconds to grab a stick and then I'm ready. I filmed I set up a camera. I did a musical. I did Jesus Christ Superstar last summer. And so for one of the shows, I just set up my phone and just filmed the whole performance, the first show, so I can kind of see okay, this is where I'm messing up at. And yeah, because I have sheet music and you have to turn the page. So I'll be drumming. I'll just put an arm under or a stick under my arm and then keep playing with the other arm. Turn the page back on. It was just completely seamless. It's just I just have that skill set. Not everybody does, but for me it's easy. So yeah, if dropping a stick or breaking a stick, breaking a stick is fine because it's cool. Dropping a stick's embarrassing, but yeah, I can get a new stick pretty quick in my hands.
And then in terms of the performances themselves, do you find yourselves normally in situations where you have a set list, or do you kind of play it by ear based on the audio?
Yeah, I prefer set lists. So yeah, the last show I did, I couple weeks ago, I asked them, "Hey, can you print up set lists?" Right before we left to the venue, I was like, "Hey, can you print up a set list? 'Cause that'd be great." So I definitely having, I usually have on the floor. But yeah, as far as calling tunes, it happens sometimes. And I'm fine with it, but yeah, I prefer the printed set list or whatever, just having a set list to look at. I do prefer that, but if somebody's going to call a song, I'm flexible. That's fine. Yeah.
But I guess what I get at is some bands just don't even have a set list. Other bands do, and I'm just always curious about which way certain bands go. I don't think there's any right or wrong. If it helps you, great. If it doesn't help you, great. But I'm always curious about it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's a thing for sure. I know with a lot of when I go see jazz shows and jazz gigs, it's more common in the jazz world where they'll just call a tune on the stand.
A lot of blues too.
Yeah, blues would be the same way. So I think genre, as much as I like knocking on the concept of genre, I do think that there is a culture behind genre among the musicians, and different genres have a different culture in regards to that. I think a lot of the music I do is more the type that yeah, it's expected to have a set list. But yeah, if I was to do a I'm trying to think, is I did I've done a few wedding gigs past couple of years, and I did one which was mostly jazz, and I can't remember if that was called or not. It might have been a set list, I'm not sure, but yeah, I guess if I'm going to give a definitive answer, I think it kind of depends on what type of music you're playing, which way it goes. Yeah.
And then in terms of like the live performance piece,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I'm curious about, also from a drummer's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
is do you use inner ear monitors or not?
Now I do when I can. I got in-ears a couple years ago because I was filling in for I don't know if do you know the band Tragic Kingdom?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the local No Doubt tribute band. Yeah, they had a gig up in LA and their drummer couldn't do that show, so they knew me, so they hit me up. And I've seen my Lady Gaga band and their band played a few shows together like pre-COVID, so I knew they had in-ears with like a click track and everything. So I knew that. So I asked them, okay, like what do I need? Because I've never done in-ears before. I have played to clicks in the studio all the time. I have no issue with playing with clicks. So I got like recommendations online as to what in-ears to get, and I did a show with it, and like instantly it's like, this is amazing. This is a game changer. And then from then on, any chance I get, like I'll talk to the sound person beforehand. It's like, hey, if you can hook up my in-ear system, let's do that. It blocks out stage volume, which is nice. It blocks out drum volume, which is nice for hearing. And it's easier on the sound engineer because you don't have a drum monitor right here blasting at you, which the mics will pick up and causes all sorts of problems. So it's just better for everybody. The sound's also more intimate.
Yeah.
Like, it's the vocalist is right here. And it's like it makes it really easy to like hear what they're saying. As opposed to like even with the drum monitor just a couple feet from me, it's still like competing with everything else, and it might be hard to like hear things sometimes. So
Or there's probably a delay, right?
there really isn't. The delay is not really there, but yeah, it's just like the competing sounds and everything's just a lot more clear when they're in ears. So I advocate for in ears. My system that I have is not wireless. So if I was going to play something not drums, then I'd probably would need to get a wireless setup or just deal with stage monitors. But yeah, if you're a drummer and you're not moving around, just get in ears. They're just better.
And so, last question, because we've already been at this for an hour. How did you come up with the name? Like, was there something about Odin that called you, or?
Yeah. So, when I was looking for a lyricist, I had a bunch of story ideas in mind. And so one of the stories I had was something on Norse mythology, because my grandmother, the one who was the pianist singer, she is fully 100% Nordic. She was born here. She was born in Portland, but she's full-blood Norwegian Finnish. And I didn't like embrace that side of my heritage until I was an adult. Because like, yeah, it's like it's my great great grandparents came here straight from the old country to Oregon. And it's like, okay, so I'm only a couple generations removed from that on that side of the family. It's like, maybe I should like look into that side of my culture more. So I kind of got into Norse mythology, even though, I mean, Norse mythology was, killed off 1,000 years ago by, the Christianization. But still, I mean, it is a part of that culture. It is a part of that, their history. So I started looking into it more. And so, like, I had an idea of doing something based on Norse mythology. I just didn't really know a whole lot about it at the time. So, um, I met Alex online through some website. It's been 15 years. I can't remember. He lives in France. I've never actually met him. And he was like, you know what? I am a big Norse mythology fan. Let me figure out what saga to tell to write the right lyrics for. And then he came back to me a few months later saying, okay, it's going to be about Odin, and it's called In Odin's Name, and it's called that because like in the story, there's a lot of the bad things that happen is things that are done in the name of Odin. We're doing this because of Odin, and it causes more problems than not. So, and there's even like a in the lyrics they say in Odin's name in one of the songs. So, that is where that came from.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So as we wound down, where can people go to find your music?
Great, because my music is totally already out at this point. So I'm going to I want to direct people to. Well, first off, I think my website's a good place to start. Vainastudios.com, VAINA studios.com. That all the links will be there. If you're going to purchase it, I would recommend going through Bandcamp, because that benefits the artists more than other avenues. It will also be on Spotify and everything. As much as I hate Spotify, I am putting it on there because of accessibility. But yeah, I think the number one way to support it is purchasing it on Bandcamp. If not that, purchasing it elsewhere. And if you are going to stream it, anything that's not Spotify, I think Tidal is pretty good about how much they pay artists. But if Spotify's what you have, then do that. That's fine. I did make physical copies, physical CDs. I'm not planning on selling them online. They're mostly just as gifts for the people who worked on it. But like if you run into me in person and you want a physical copy, just let me know and I can like hook you up with something too. That's just kind of a, for those who still do that. Anyways, yeah. And then of course, there'll be stuff on my YouTube channel, Sea Froggies, SEAFROGGYS, the music video for the singles on there. Check it out. That was a lot of fun to film. And
Actually be playing after this video.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so stick around.
Stick around.
Just a few minutes and you'll get a chance to hear.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is, I guess, my marketing spiel. And hopefully sometime soon, well, I would say sometime soon, but hopefully we'll get a chance to play it live. That'd be amazing.
I would love that. And I hope you let me know when, because if I can be there, I would love to be a part of it.
I'll let everybody know.
Yeah. So, and I'll end the podcast the way I always end the podcast, folks. Be kind. We all live on the same planet. We breathe the same air, and this place would just be a little bit better if we treated everybody with a little kindness.